Number 5. Brock Lesnar 2015. In the final ever matchup of the legendary rivalry between the Beast Brock Lesnar and the Phenom The Undertaker, both legends would face off inside their second ever Hell in a Cell match together at Hell in a Cell pay-per-view 2015 to end things once and for all between the two. After Lesnar defeated The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania 30 and left him with a concussion, The Undertaker was set out for revenge, making Lesnar's life a living hell until the pair faced off inside the Devil's Playground. During the match, Lesnar would be sent flying headfirst into the ring post, causing a huge gash to develop on his forehead. This was during WWE's PG era where Vince McMahon did not allow blood of any sort on camera, but Lesnar and Undertaker had other ideas, knowing that a match of this magnitude needed to have some colour. Lesnar would eventually pick up the win, and both men were met with an unhappy Vince McMahon backstage, and although they may have been let off the hook, Lesnar required 9 staples to seal the wound after Vince McMahon had ordered the doctor down to the ring during the match to wipe the blood off of Lesnar's face. Number 4. Randy Orton 2018. In a time where the Hell in a Cell match was being overused, Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy set out to make a cell match that wouldn't be lost in the shuffle. As the two faced off at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view in 2018 inside the steel structure, both men would hold nothing back, delivering risky maneuvers and stiff shots throughout, with Orton even twisting a screwdriver through Jeff's pierced ear. Eventually, Orton would go on to pick up the win after Jeff would miss a huge splash hanging from the inner roof of the cell through a table. The WWE would run with the storyline that it was Jeff Hardy who was in fact injured with apparent internal injuries after being stretchered out, but in reality it was Orton who came out with the most damage, having not only huge welts left on his back, but also a chunk of flesh having been cut wide open out of his leg. Orton would post a gruesome injury on Instagram, quoting, "No matter the outcome, they say you lose a small piece of yourself when you enter Hell in a Cell." The wound was soon sealed, and Orton was able to continue on the road, having put on one of the most memorable cell matches of the 2010s. Number 3. Shane McMahon 2016. Speaking of memorable cell matches, when Shane McMahon and The Undertaker faced off at WrestleMania 32 inside the cell, fans knew something big was in store for such a grand stage. With the WWE looking to set a brand new WrestleMania attendance record at Dallas's AT&T Stadium, something big had to unfold, and what better way than for the returning, death-defying Shane O'Mac to take one of his infamous leaps of faith. Fans had seen the likes of Mankind thrown off the top of the cell before, but no one had ever jumped off the roof of their own will. At WrestleMania 32, history would be made, as that's exactly what Shane McMahon did. As the pair brawled outside the cell, Shane would nail The Undertaker with a toolbox, laying him out onto the announcer's table. He would then climb onto the top of the roof of the cell, pray to God, and take one of the biggest leaps of his life, crashing down through the announcer's table 20 feet below as The Undertaker had moved out of the way. A spectacular WrestleMania moment had just unfolded, but Shane McMahon had in fact suffered an umbilical hernia, which means he blew his belly button out, later quoting that "because I hit so hard on impact, I didn't expect the force to be that hard, but oh my god, it was." Reports later stated that The Undertaker was against the idea originally backstage, but was overruled by Vince McMahon. Shane would go on to make a full recovery, and backstage presented The Undertaker with one of his WrestleMania baseball jerseys, in which the dead man gave Shane one of his MMA-style gloves as a token of respect. Number 2. Tim White 2002. One of the most shocking injuries inside Hell in a Cell didn't even happen to a wrestler, but in fact a referee. Back in 2002, the Game Triple H and Y2J Chris Jericho were locked into a personal feud which had seen Triple H take the WWE Undisputed Championship from Jericho at WrestleMania 18. Months later, the pair would settle the score inside Hell in a Cell at WWE's Judgment Day pay-per-view in 2002. The referee for this match was Tim White. This was a man who started out as Andre the Giant's agent, and once the gargantuan Frenchman had died in 1993, he became a full-time referee. White was also the referee for the legendary Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Mankind in 1998, so he was already familiar with this brutal setting. Midway through the match, Triple H sent Jericho flying towards Tim White, who was stood on the ring apron, resulting in him being sent flying into the cell wall. With this, White would be busted open and suffer a serious shoulder injury and would have to be helped backstage and replaced during the match by referee Mike Chioda, as Triple H would eventually pick up the win on top of the roof of the cell. Tim White would return to the company 2 years later in 2004 to referee the match between Chris Jericho and Christian at WrestleMania 20. However, as he counted the 3 count during the match, he would re-injure his shoulder and eventually retire altogether a month later. Number 1. Mankind, 1998. Who else could top a list of the worst Hell in a Cell injuries other than Mick Foley? The hardcore legend forever lived up to his moniker, as in 1998, Foley's Mankind persona would take on The Undertaker in the WWE's 3rd ever Hell in a Cell match at the WWE's King of the Ring pay-per-view. In an unprecedented move, Mankind would dare The Undertaker to start the match on the roof of the cell, where the dead man would throw Mankind off the top and down through the announcer's table below in WWE's most replayed moment in company history. As if that wasn't enough, Mankind would get up off the stretcher, climb back on top of the cell, and be chokeslammed through the roof, crashing into the ring below. With Foley passed out, the Phenom would hop down into the ring from the roof, re-injuring his injured ankle and breaking it. Somehow, both men would continue the match, with Mankind even being thrown onto a pile of thumbtacks. The Undertaker would go on to pick up the win, but after what turned out to be WWE's most violent match ever, Foley revealed that backstage Vince McMahon had said to him, "You have no idea how much I appreciate what you have done for this company, but I never want to see anything like that again." Needless to say, Mick Foley suffered more than one injury on this night, having suffered a dislocated left shoulder, internal bleeding, bruised ribs, a concussion, a dislocated jaw, and numerous puncture wounds. And to top things off, one of Foley's teeth went up through his lip and lodged into his nose in one of the most memorable shots from this insane matchup.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more wrestling content.